To most people that aren't me, the voices sound distorted and distant, and the tracks pop and hiss like a dying fire. The instruments sound just a littlest bit out of tune, like they're not the same kind of thing as a trumpet or a violin. So, I've been thinking about this for actual years. Why, when most people hear old recordings of old music, do they 80% of the time go, "Oh, so spooky, what are you talking about?" Why do horror things use old music as a shorthand for spooky in their trailers when they're not busy appropriating children's nursery rhymes? Why are you people like this? And then one day, a light bulb went off in my head. See, it comes down to two things. The musical cues for spookiness have changed from the before times, and recording equipment has gotten way better since 1924. I don't have a degree in music history yet, but I was raised around a lot of barbershop music, which is 60 to 80% harmonies and musical techniques that nobody uses in mainstream music. This means I am uniquely suited to not find old music creepy by virtue of, the music. Because a lot of them use instrumentals and harmonies and styles of singing that closely relate to barbershop, a style of music originating around the same era. Meanwhile, in common mainstream culture trademark symbol, that family of techniques only gets used in horror movies to build tension, which was not happening in 1937, surprisingly enough. If we make some assumptions and look at the trends towards heavily favoring tenor voices for singing parts, I'd have to conclude that bass voices are just inherently scary to a good chunk of people. Which I don't think is true, but I don't think it's not true, and I also think bass voices are excellent, and we should have more of them being not the villain in the musical. Anyway, as for the recording equipment, that seems pretty self-explanatory. In those old recordings that people will point to and go, "Ooh, spooky," the recording equipment was a completely different beast. You did not have microphones that could pick up a person's voice with the level of crisp clarity I am speaking to you inside of your headphones with. You had these monstrosities on screen, or later, a microphone and playback system that made your voice sound like you were recorded inside of a cardboard box. When lo-fi music taps into nostalgia brain via the clickety-clack of cassettes and the sound of vinyl records or magnetic tape, people like it because that's the level of artifacting and grain that most modern ears grew up with, and clock is appropriate. It retroactively adds physicality to the art that otherwise wouldn't exist in this slick hip-hoppy affair. And if you've listened to the Magnus archives and like to be 2 steps ahead of your YouTube videos, you might think to yourself, but that kind of tech can be spooky too. And yes, you're right. Rewinding or distorted tape sounds can be used for creepy, or comedic, or clever effect, but they're not only associated with the creepy effect part. That is my sticking point here. This is another thing that I, fully by coincidence, became inoculated to at a very early age, because we didn't have cable until I was in the 3rd grade, but we did have some Shirley Temple VHS tapes and a Betty Boop compilation DVD, all with footage from, the 30s through 40s, that was recorded using equipment about on par with its time period. So that level of distortion was just kind of another way audio could be for me. It didn't register as anything that sounded wrong. To most people that aren't me, the voices sound distorted and distant, and the tracks pop and hiss like a dying fire. The instruments sound just a littlest bit out of tune, like they're not the same kind of thing as a trumpet or a violin. It all sounds crunched and echoey, and your brain has no way to clock it properly, so it gets suspicious and starts looking for reasons for it to be like that. So now you're on edge, and the whole style of music sounds wrong, because most people actually have an incredibly limited music palette, because they're just letting Spotify loop the most popular songs of their preferred genre at them ad nauseum if they choose to turn on music in their free time at all, and then anything older than circa 1958 gets shoved into the same category of old music, and then they listen listen to Running Up That Hill in droves because it was on Stranger Things, and you feel some sort of existential dread in your soul when you start to realize that 80s music is so blasted popular, in part because it is in fact very good, but also because it is in a stupid window of time where for the first time in music history, recorded music sounds good to the modern ear without needing to be re-recorded, and also, most modern metrics of good music has the vast majority of its roots in whatever is going on in the 70s and 80s, and so a rage builds in your heart about the unfairness of how Pennies from Heaven and Teenager in Love are some of your favorite songs, but that's lame. All the while, you hear sounds and music conventions that you find interesting and a touch nostalgic being used in bad horror movie trailers or as set dressing in survival horror games, and you want to shake someone by the shoulders and demand to see the manager of the planet! So that's why I refused to listen to Running Up That Hill for months until I heard 2 avocados for $10 and wanted to know what song it was riffing on. What's a thing close to your heart that you frequently see bastardized in the public eye? Tell me about it, I'm curious. You don't even gotta say it under this video. You can just choose chaos and click on a completely different video of mine to say it there, without context. I've got a Ko-Fi page I'm working on getting, nicer with actual incentives, but until then, it's a tip jar. And if everyone in my subscriber number tips $1, that's 3 whole digits of number go up. You too can help number go up! But only if you are also taken care of. Be safe. Bye.